one-piece skin suit to get himself those marginal gains, to try and get himself a little bit quicker in the air. Edvald Bosenhagen, I was talking to our Norwegian colleagues about his sprint at the national championships. They said he led the sprint out there for the last 750 meters. He was so powerful, nobody could come by him. He is a canny rider. But, I mean, we're looking at the world champion, Peter Sagan. He can very often do what we believe is impossible.
Jens Voigt, you're our man. Which one's going to win?
Very often in groups like this, the first who really takes initiative, like as if he mean it, is having the best end for himself. So what we might see is that Orica Greenwich with 3 riders looks unbeatable. They look unbeatable, but maybe they are so focused on only Sagan that Dumoulin, actually Sam Dumoulin, Samuel, might be just slip away and nobody feels responsible to chase him down. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him going off in a minute and people look at each other, go, no, you chase first, no, you chase first, and he goes away and wins.
Well, it's certainly an interesting combination, and it's going to be pretty exciting over these last few kilometres of the day.
Yeah, well, Phil, I would have agreed with Jens 12 months ago, but all of a sudden this year, Peter Sagan just seems to have so much more confidence in himself. And once he sees those little attacks coming, he knows he's not going to get any help from anyone else in the group, so he will take the responsibility of chasing those groups down in person.
Well, he's got rid of the so-called jinx on the World Championship jersey. Be going under 10 kilometres, 6 miles to the finish, because Peter's had 7 wins this year. There he is. You can never tell what he's thinking because he never looks around, he never twitches, he just gets on and you just don't know what he's going to do next.
Well, Luke what a massive crowd at the top of this tiny little climb.
It's enormous. Well, they can't get in the town. The town's too narrow. Sagan takes the points as if it mattered. Now then, they've got Peter Sagan on the front and they're not going to go past him. Matthews has had a very good climb. He's kept himself in a perfect position to win this stage.
But it's so difficult to win from a group like this. So bear in mind that the attacks came thick and fast from the very first climb of the day, the Col de Onvalira. And one of the most aggressive riders on the first climb of the day was the man who's in first position still in this leading group, Peter Sagan, the world champion.
Well, he's paying the price for being the world champion and for being one of the most feared riders in the Tour de France. Nobody wants to help him. And they're hoping he's using energy sitting at the front, but you never know with Peter. Still hanging on the back is Daryl Impey, the big workhorse. He's worn the yellow jersey in the Tour de France for the former Orica Green Edge team. Same team, a slightly different sponsor this year. It's now Orica Bike Exchange. Big acceleration.
Huge move there by Peter Sagan, just showing the power that he's got, but he's not opening up any daylight between himself and any of the other riders in this group. Now, still, Orica Bike Exchange, Phil, have the advantage of 2 men around that little left-hand bend. Oof. This is the descent they're starting to line themselves up for.
Well, we get down the descent, we're into the town. It is a sprinter's delight. It's a very long sprinting straight. There's a sort of dogleg right and left, but it's a long way from the finish. The actual line. Sagan, they're not going past him at all. Poor old Peter Sagan. Even Daryl Impey's still holding on despite those 2 attacks. He could even get himself through if it comes to the flatter roads to help leading out Michael Matthews.
Well, when you look at this breakaway group, Phil, you've got to cast your mind back to Richmond, Virginia last year. First in the World Championships was Peter Sagan. Second on that occasion was Michael Matthews. Yeah. I wonder if this is going to be a return match of that showdown that went down to the last couple of kilometres of the event.
It might well be at another turn of speed. Remember, Sagan is such a talented downhill. He rides mountain bikes as well. And now there's the attack, and that's Bosenhagen. And immediately Sagan switches the road and grabs his slipstream. He's going to have to work for this, and still Michael Matthews waits on his wheel.
Yes, but Peter Sagan there, Phil, just looks so calm. He's responded to every move. Nobody else has responded to all of the moves except the world champion. Every time he sees that acceleration, it's as if he's got a second confidence this year with the fact that he is wearing that very special jersey on his shoulders. World champion.
The Dimension Data rider has been caught. First by Sagan, second by Matthews, third by Grant Avermaet, and then Dumoulin, and sat at the back Daryl Impey. All time to freewheel again. 4.5 kilometres from the finish, that's all. If it comes to a finish shoulder to shoulder, all odds are equal. I've got a feeling that Michael Matthews might win this, but remember, he's been doing altitude training and mountain training, and he himself is the first to admit his sprint isn't quite there yet. We'll see if it is today.
Well, the most experienced rider in the group, Phil, is Samy Dumoulin. He's 35 years of age. He's been a professional since 2002, and he will see this as a magical opportunity to try and outfox everybody else. He'll be attentive right now. He will take the risk of trying to sit at the back and hope this group comes together to the finishing line all together, because somebody will have to lead the sprint out from a fair way out, 400 or 500 metres, and that will put the advantage to Samy Dumoulin. Watch him there in the white jersey and the green shorts, hovering around, placing himself in this group in a position so that he won't get caught out if there's a split in the group.
Well, the only riders who never won a stage of the Tour de France in this breakaway are the two riders in blue from Orica Bike Exchange. Unless you count the team time trial at Nice a couple of years ago. And here goes Daryl Impey. He's gone to the right of the road. Now it's up to Sagan again. Sagan quickly trying to get on. He's having to fight for this one. Matthews holds on to the wheel of the world champion. They're doing exactly the way it should be done. Yes, Sagan is up for it.
3 kilometres to go, Phil. Did you see the confidence, though, of Peter Sagan? He will respond to everything. He knows he's not going to get any help from any quarter in a breakaway situation like this, and he says, right, any move that goes, it's got to be me. I have to nail it back, which is why I think all of a sudden maybe Orica Bike Exchange are not feeling that confident with Michael Matthews, and that's why they're throwing these attacks. If Michael Matthews has got anything in the engine room, he maybe has to take the risk this far out from the finish line to also try and surprise Peter Sagan.
I think Impey is doing everything. He's the perfect teammate here. He's trying to force reactions from everybody. Matthews is really in the armchair here, and he's waiting for his moment. It's a long straight finish. Michael Matthews never has won an individual stage of the Tour de France. Here he goes again, and Sagan this time has seen him coming, and he's accelerating a little bit quicker.
Well, you know, all of a sudden, Peter Sagan, you might not have noticed there, he was just about to take on board a little bit of food, and that was the moment when Daryl Impey thought, I've got this, I'll just try and surprise Peter Sagan, but it didn't happen. Sagan is so alert. I tell you, Phil, this is probably one of the most difficult ones to call.
I can't remember we've ever commentated on a sprint like this. It is amazing. And we're waiting for the man that lays down the foundations. Meanwhile, back in the peloton, they're all asleep. 8 minutes, 11 seconds now. Let's get back up front. Day off for the yellow jersey. That'll be another day tomorrow for him.
Well, we talked about, Phil, the return match of the World Championships between Peter Sagan and between Michael Matthews. What about the return of the sprinter last year when we went to the finish in Rodez between Greg Van Avermaet and Peter Sagan? That was a very difficult uphill finish, and the man wearing number 98, well, he came out on top on that occasion.
And he's done nothing. He's watched everybody so far. He's gambling on the others' tactics. And watch out for Greg Van Avermaet. He is a very strong rider on brilliant form. Remember, 3 days in the lead in this race, and had an excellent win on the lower mountains when we started on day 4 of the Tour. There he is, waiting. I would certainly not write him off pulling out the big one.
Well, he's also taken up last position in this group, and the reason for that is so he can keep a very close eye on everybody else. If he starts to see it's looking dangerous and a move comes, he'll be right on top of it. He moves back up to the wheel there of Samy Dumoulin, the diminutive French sprinter there, and there is the final kilometre. And still we can't put a name onto the man who's going to be the fastest out of this group.
That was a perfect finish by Orica Bike Exchange, and in particular by Michael Matthews.
Well, you talk about a nail-biter, and by the way, you might not have seen the average speed of the stage there, Phil. 45 kilometres an hour. Orica Bike Exchange, they put themselves right up there. Peter Sagan, well, he tried everything, but he was up against a team that did the job. And what about this man coming into the finishing line now? Durbridge, a smile all over his face, because he knows that having 3 men in that breakaway, they had to win the stage this afternoon, and he knows that he was part of doing the job this afternoon.
He'll be delighted when he hears the news as he comes up here. He's waiting to smile or cry. He doesn't know quite what it is yet. Now he smiles. Somebody's just told him. Luke Durbridge there, and the peloton still heading home. It'll be a while as we see there Fabian Cancellara at the front.
Well, that is the moment. As you can see, Luke Durbridge knows what has happened on the day, that his team, Orica Bike Exchange, have got themselves the victory that they were looking for. The main field chased for an awful long time. I mean, on the descent of the Col d'Envalira, they came back to 30 seconds from the leading group of riders, but then eventually it opened out and it started to stretch. It came back to 3.5 minutes. But I think there just wasn't the firepower, there wasn't the will to organise the chase behind in the peloton, knowing that they've got a lot of hard races, a lot of strategic days on the horizon in this next week of the race. The Mont Ventoux beckons for the men who want to win this race overall. The 37.5 kilometre individual time trial. And for the sprinters, they probably feel a little bit more confident that tomorrow is the sort of day that suits them an awful lot better, because tomorrow we go into a sprinter's delight into the town of Montpellier.
But there's never a day where you can rest if you're one of the contenders for yellow. Michael Valgren is the rider from Tinkoff, having a little bit of fun to win the Spunch Sprint. Or it might have been Edouard Turns or Jesper Sturben from Trek Segafredo. An average speed of 45 kilometres per hour. Here's the sprint. And Michael Matthews really had time to celebrate. Peter Sagan up in a second. Edvald Boasson-Hagen in third. Starting from the historic city of Carcassonne, the destination is Montpellier, a happy hunting ground for the sprinters. But what looks like a simple day on paper could prove to be the most complicated of the race. And this is what confronts them as they make their way on stage 11 from Carcassonne to Montpellier. It's a relatively flat stage, as 2 Category 4 climbs early on, the usual intermediate sprint, but the main challenge today will be the expected crosswinds. Just 162 kilometres, it's sure to be a fast one. Well, this is the beautiful walled city of Carcassonne hosting the stage start today. The first castle was built here back in 1150. It is steeped in history. Peloton rolling away, and at the front, the yellow jersey, as always, Chris Froome, with the white jersey of Adam Yates sitting right behind him. The Kiwi in the red colours, Greg Henderson, paying very close attention to the front. He has a big role to play today in supporting Andre Greipel to see whether the German national champion can get his first win this year after 4 wins last year. Green jersey with Peter Sagan, and congratulations from Andre Greipel. This is the situation of the race. 2 riders have managed to break away with a 2-minute and 21-second lead. Lee Howard in the white colours, along with the French national champion Arthur Vichot. Some encouragement between the two, and they are all smiles. This is the safest place to be. Montpellier is the destination. What a great destination it is for the South Africans. In 2007, coming into Montpellier, the race was blown apart in similar conditions to today, but it was Robbie Hunter who got the win, riding for the Barlow World Team in the red colours. The first win by a South African on an individual road stage at the Tour de France. And then it was 6 years later, 2013. Andre Greipel was the stage winner, but Daryl Impey took the yellow jersey off the shoulders of his teammate Simon Gerrans to become the first South African to wear the yellow jersey at the Tour de France. There's a crash back in the main peloton, and Thibaut Pinot is at the bottom of it. Thibaut Pinot, the leader of the King of the Mountains classification. His teammates in the white colours of FDJ, they're waiting for him. There's also a rider down there from Lotto NL Jumbo. It looks like it could be George Bennett. He doesn't look good. George Bennett has fallen a long way down that ditch. Race medical support to stay with him, and that will just increase the tension within the peloton today. Here's another look at it. And there is Bennett over the top. Next down, it is Thibaut Pinot in the polka dot jersey. George Bennett claws his way up out of the ditch. He's accustomed to climbing, but not that sort of climbing. 7th place on the stage in Andorra. We saw him the day before that do a lot of work for his teammate Wilco Kelderman. These are the sort of days that George Bennett would be the first to admit that he really doesn't like. He needs to get through it because the team have got high hopes for him once we reach the Alps. Now the chase is on for Thibaut Pinot, who yesterday said he didn't feel too well after the rest day. His teammate Arthur Vichot is the rider in the breakaway, the French national champion, riding alongside Lee Howard. The majority of the rest of the team are back there supporting him. You will see lots of vineyards today. Red wine and rosé is the predominant variety that we see down in this part of the world. The warm climate in the south of the country. Just a small amount of white wine production down here. And you can already see the wind rolling through the vineyard. That's an indication as to what is to come on the stage today. Some riders making their way back after being caught behind the fall. Thibaut Pinot has targeted tomorrow's stage, so we'll be wanting to get through today as comfortably as possible. And this is anything but a good start. It is stating the obvious, but it needed to be stated. He sits on the wheel of Reichenbach. William Bonnet is there with him. He's number 122. He's the captain on the road, number 122 for FDJ. And that's Lawrence Tendam in the white and black colours of Giant Alpecin, who famously, when he was in the Rabobank colours, he fell heavily on his face and he had a blood nose, he had skin off everywhere, and it was all taped up looking like a mummy. Heaven knows how he was able to breathe on that occasion, but he fought his way through and made it all the way to Paris. What a day of celebration they had yesterday with Michael Matthews getting his win. And Michael Matthews starting to concede that he perhaps was losing faith in his own ability to be able to win a stage at this year's tour. And was on the brink of abandoning the race. And he said the monkey's off the back, he'll be full of confidence. For Lawrence Tendam at the back of the group and Christopher Juhl Jensen in second last position, they'll be very pleased that they've got Thibaut Pinot for company, as he's got all his teammates doing the work, and those two at the back can just follow the wheels. Surely they'll be able to return. It just might take a while. The Chateau de Malazan-Minois that we're now getting a chance to look at, an old Renaissance chateau that dates from back in the 15th century. It was actually brought by the new municipality back in 1986. It's been restored and it looks as if there's some restoration work going on at the moment. And it does host quite a bit of cultural activities, music, festivals and so on in this small little village. One for the kids, courtesy of Lee Howard. Another warm day, just in the mid-20s, but it is one of those days where it feels a lot hotter than what the mercury tells us that it actually is. And the dry wind adds to it. There will be a lot of tension. This will be the most stressful stage of this year's race. Good to see the Welsh flag on the side of the road. Two riders from Wales in the race who will play an important role in today's stage. Luke Rowe and Geraint Thomas. Making their way through the town of Siras now. This is Matthias Frank at the back of the group. Matthias Frank sitting in second last position from IM Cycling. He was involved in another one of those falls and having a few problems. But he's benefiting from the Thibaut Pinot crash as well, just like Christopher Juhl Jensen and Lawrence Tendam, making the most of the work being done by FDJ. Gets hectic in amongst the team cars, not just for the riders. Difficult to ride the motorbike through there without camera. Hopefully everybody stays safe. This is Maciej Bodnar now at the front for Tinkoff. Peter Sagan returns to the green jersey. Vizioso is the rider in the red colours from Katusha. They're fighting on two fronts today. One to try and win the stage with Alexander Kristoff. I was almost going to go elsewhere. Alexander Kristoff is their chance to win the stage today. But they're also wanting to look after Joaquim Rodriguez. Rodriguez is in 5th spot overall, just 37 seconds behind. And this will be his last Tour de France, and he wants a high placing overall. This is Jürgen van den Broek, one of the teammates of Joaquim Rodriguez. 20th position in the general classification at 5 minutes and 33 seconds. He's twice finished in the top 5 in the Tour de France, Jürgen van den Broek. So he'll be an important man for Joaquim Rodriguez tomorrow to Mont Ventoux, and then in the final week through the Alps and into Switzerland. And he just missed the sticky bidden. I'm sure that will come back to him. FDJ, they've almost returned. I'm sure they wish they were driving or racing in New Zealand or Australia or the United Kingdom for that matter, with the cars on the other side of the road, as then they would have been able to go up the right side, and that would have offered them just a little bit of protection from the wind that is coming from left to right. The Côte de Minerve is the first of 2 Category 4 climbs on today's stage. 2.4 kilometres in length with an average grain of 5.4%. Howard and Visho are almost at the base of it. Eyes Frank at the back of the group from IM Cycling. 8th overall last year, the man in the white colours wearing number 71. He's a lot further back this year, sitting in 25th position. He's now declared that he's no longer worried about where he finishes overall. He's hunting for a stage. Thibaut Pinot returns. One of the days he doesn't like. The 2 leaders start this Category 4 climb. 1 point available in the race for the King of the Mountains jersey. Thibaut Pinot, the leader of that classification, but he's not worried about it. And tomorrow, the 14th of July, the day of celebration, Bastille Day for the French. And Thibaut Pinot has made it pretty clear he wants to get in the break. But on the eve of Bastille Day, it is the French national champion. Nice big giraffe to welcome people into this chateau. The giraffe stands at some 4 metres tall. This is a beautiful looking building with the vines all across the walls. It's a private chateau. It's got some 7 hectares of vineyards surrounding it. And we saw that entrance with the giraffe that welcomes people when they do arrive here. Beautifully manicured gardens. And nice to see some shade to be able to sit out in the courtyard there and enjoy the warm summer months of July and August. June wasn't too warm in France. Not this year anyway.
Seberg, a couple other teammates, and look at the back of the peloton. It splits immediately. Here, half a dozen riders already dropped. Panic stations now, all round.
It was stage 13 of the Tour de France in 2013, where a move like this happened with 90 kilometres to go, and the Movistar team got caught on the back foot. Valverde lost a huge chunk of time, and Team Sky also lost a little bit of time. The yellow jersey is fighting to make sure he stays near the front.
He was quite a way back in about 35th wheel, and the telling thing was he wasn't surrounded by his own teammates. One Team Sky rider out to the left, trying to form what you call another echelon to give some shelter and call one of his other teammates across, get themselves grouped back together and get Chris Froome to the start front as this race is starting to split up.
Well, the vineyard is not the position that we want to be in now. We want to be down in amongst the race. Matteo Tusato is the man who started it all. Roman Kreuziger now comes through to the front, and this is good for his position in the overall standings, but more importantly for them, it's about a stage win for Sagan. It's splintering.
This is about another 50 or 60 riders off the back, and this area, and you look at the trees, it's fairly sheltered. It's not that windy compared to the rest of the course. Tinkoff have already started proceedings, and the gap is really starting to drop. That 3:45, it's not that anymore. 3:18 and dropping like a stone.
But how quickly did that happen? The chalkboard compared to the GPS. Sagan goes to the front and calls it off.
They've realised now as they come into this forested area, the road is twisted and turned. There's not enough wind to continue and do the damage that they were hoping for. But now Ethics Quickstep, along with BMC, have decided we've got to keep this going because we've lost half of the bunch. And this sort of shelter is not going to last long either. As soon as they come out of this area, they'll get hit again. Wind from the left.
And at this point, because of the gaps that have opened up, if somebody in that front group has a mechanical problem, like the rear wheel puncher we saw for Richie Porte on stage 2, their team car is a long way behind. So having a teammate alongside you is crucial.
Absolutely, because there's not even a neutral spares car in between. Pretty soon, there's always one that drives in front of the peloton. They will pull over, let that group go past and get in behind, because that's a moment that's also very dangerous for any contender, be it for the stage or for the overall.
Doesn't want the drink just as yet. Arthur Vischer now speaking to the sports director from IM Cycling. The team of Lee Howard.
They'll be getting the bad news.
Yes. Under 3 minutes. How quickly has that happened?
It started, like we said, if it really starts in earnest in a very windy section, they would close that gap down in about 6 kilometres time, possibly even less. The speed differential is that high.
Early in the stage, Vischer and Howard had a chatty, conversational, happy look about them. That was a very serious looking Arthur Vischer. And when you can see the backs of the leaves on the trees, the tailwind, very quick sector.
So we said there was a little change in direction. Tinkoff started the move. They split the peloton. Then the road was winding a bit. They're now into a tailwind section. Won't be long before the road twists and turns again. Puts things back on the side of the road. Nervous moments, but fun to call.
Samuel Dumoulin is in this second group. George Bennett has also missed the split. Not that that's of any concern to George Bennett. He's a rider that's waiting to get into the breakaway in the mountains. Thibaut Pinot has also missed the split. It doesn't really come as a surprise. He's already had a fall today, Thibaut Pinot. He's been on the back foot right from the very start. Jürgen van den Broek is here. Shane Archbold in the black colours, the flying mullet. Well, he's not flying this afternoon.
So, Matt, Tinkoff have already made the first attack that we've seen of any team today. A few other teams willing to get amongst the action, like Ethics Quickstep, for Dan Martin to protect him, and also for Marcel Kittel, looking for a sprint win. But the bunch is not even at the feed zone yet. As we see here, Wilco Kelderman has been left behind, but he's making his way back through the team cars. A number of other riders doing the same. You want to get on very quickly, get himself up to the front of the peloton before they hit the feed. It's normally not done to attack through the feed, but when the wind's like this, it's just a case of staying at the front, pushes the pace. I'm holding my breath for the feed zone because that is often the scene of carnage.
We spoke earlier about the climbers from Sky being at the front, using them early. That was Vasil Kirienka that's now gone to the front for Team Sky. The strong men for the flat, windy lands have come forward, Howard and Vischer. What was 5, it now becomes 2:05. The gap is evaporating under the southern sun of France. Nice picnic on the side of the road, but keep off the road because the peloton will be using every millimetre. They'll be trimming the edge on the right-hand side with the wind coming from the left.
Yep, Council will not need to go along with the whippersnippers on the right-hand side of the road for a little while to come yet. And the further this race goes, the barer it will get on the right-hand side.
Well, Wilco Kelderman, the rider in the yellow colours that we saw from Lotto NL Jumbo, who was caught off the back, he was their hope for the overall standings, looking for a top 10 finish. He's currently 19th, 5.5 minutes down. But then he also said recently, maybe I need to lose more time to get some freedom in the mountains. This is a large portion of the FDJ team doing the chasing for Thibaut Pinot. And one rider in that group from the Movistar team, and the rider that is there, it looks like Jesus Harada. So that's good news for Movistar. I would have been concerned for Nairo Quintana if it was Imanol Iverti, who's the one man that can protect Nairo Quintana on days like this.
Also, a lot of riders there from the Bora Argon 18 team. Shane Archibald, we always spot him, the flying mullet. So they've also been caught out, along with a lot of riders, the teammates of Lee Howard from IM Cycling. There's Pozzovivo on the left of screen from AG2R, also been left behind. Another Movistar team rider.
Well, there are 4 riders in that group from AG2R Le Mondial, the teammates of Romain Bardet. Romain Bardet is vulnerable today. Alex Howes and Lawson Craddock in the green colours of Cannondale Drapac.
Who else was caught out in that group from BMC was Damiano Caruso. In the breakaway yesterday, took a lot of time back, moved up to 21st overall in GC, but now losing time again. Look at the battle for the front of the peloton as they're now just 1 kilometre from the feed zone. Sky, Etix, Quickstep, Tinkoff, they're the ones in control at the moment. Got to get into this feed zone, and don't be surprised, a lot of guys will just ride straight through and not even take anything, because grabbing a bag at the speeds they'll be travelling at and the risk of coming off, or more importantly, losing position, because that's going to be just as bad as coming off.
You can see some real tension at the front as they are approaching the feed zone. This will be one of the quickest takeaways you'll ever collect in your life, or it will be no extra fries with that, please. I'm going straight through. Just give me a drink from the team car. That will be enough.
Guys back here, back of the peloton, might be thinking, great, I'm back in the bunch. Could be very short-lived, because they may be able to see the front, but as soon as they hit a crosswind, the front of the peloton gets a very long way away.
Very quickly. 190 riders strung out in single file is a long way. And if it splits 2, 3, 15 places in front of you, you've got no hope of bridging the gap. Down to 2 minutes. Well, 1:58. The conversation starts again between Lee Howard and Arthur Vichot. And I imagine the question is, what do we do now? Just keep doing what you're doing. Wait to see what the reaction is from the main field.
And look at that strung out second bunch trying to chase their way back onto the peloton. And at the moment, everybody's still in that tailwind section for another couple of kilometres. Merville, that village, comes at 78 kilometres to go. So another 1.5 kilometres until they get to Merville. From there, the road hooks back to the left a little bit more. 1.5 kilometres. This group will just make contact, not even have time to get themselves up to the front, when there will be a bit of a direction change. Then we'll see if Tinkoff, Etix, Quickstep are prepared to go on with what they started a few minutes ago in the last crosswind.
Making their way across this old bridge that was built in 1893. It's now continuing to serve the Tour de France. A beautiful river that they go over the top of that stretches some 136 kilometres. There's 78 to go on the stage today, and look at the intensity within this group.
Well, this is that chase group, Matt. A lot of riders from FDJ, Bora Argon 18, along with IM Cycling, a couple of riders from Movistar. Sergio Pols just going through the picture there from Dimension Data. Shane Archibald, Vincenzo Nibali, Thomas Vauclair there as well. Sylvain Chavanel.
Danny Marino from Movistar. There's Dominic Pozzovivo. Wilco Kelderman was there. George Bennett has just gone through in yellow.
Tom Dumoulin just rode through the picture, the winner at Andorra Arcalis. Steve Cummings here at the back. Jurgen Roulans? No, Tony Galopin. Daryl Impey and Ruben Plaza. Well, just like Michael Matthews, Daryl Impey can be forgiven for feeling his legs not quite there for him today after a day like yesterday.
How close was that group to actually making contact? The neutral vehicles got out of the way, but they have not connected yet.
And they'll have trouble doing so, because in the front, everyone up there with the race radio will have heard the road changes direction. You're going more to the left. Get ready for more crosswind. They're all jostling for position to be at the front of the peloton. This bunch was almost there. But the road and the wind is going to decide otherwise.
It's never over until it's over. And you can see in particular 3 teams working well together. FDJ in the white and blue colours, IM Cycling in the white and navy blue colours, and then the black of Bora Argon 18. And the yellow colours with Lotto and El Jumbo, they'll want to close it down because they're hoping to protect Wilco Kelderman. This is Michael Matthews in amongst the team cars. Simon Geschke for company from Giant Alpecin. Lawson Craddock along with Alex Howes are also there. And the rider from the red colours of Cofidis is Arno Jennison, who injured his wrist in the first stage. 9 apartments throughout the centuries. Some of it has obviously collapsed, but you can see the skylights in there, still going strong under private ownership.
And Matt, you can see from our 2 riders out the front, look where Vichot is sitting now in relation to Lee Howard. It's not sitting behind him in the wheel. So it's going to be great to get a shot of the peloton because that staggered formation, here it's very easy to get the sit on one guy. No fighting for position. Back in the bunch, it's going to be a completely different story.
He's got his helicopter pilot's license, Lee Howard, so he knows all about reading wind. And if you're a sailor, that would serve you well to be able to contend with echelons. The rules are pretty much the same. As you can see, the way Arthur Vichot is overlapping the wheel of Lee Howard and getting that little bit of extra protection.
Well, that is Meurville-les-Béziers,
which comes from the Latin plural of the old walls.
And it's as they ride out of the village here that they're going to get hit with that crosswind that we just saw Lee Howard and Arthur Vichot in. I can hardly wait.
You just want to get out of town on the road again, don't you? And you can see it already starting to spark up. And it is the big strong men from Trek Segafredo. This is Jesper Sturven now who goes to the front. The red colours from BMC, that's Greg van Avermaet. Fabian Cancellara, he's the man who was dictating terms, the captain of the peloton. Reinhard Jensi van Rensburg was there for Dimension Data. This is at the back of the peloton. Thomas Voeckler craning his neck. Go, gadget neck, Thomas Voeckler, to see that little bit of road in front of him.
Well, to see the bunch soon, he's going to really be testing his eyesight because that's not the position you want to be in if you want to stay with the bunch. Vauclair won't be there for long. Is all happening at the front. We saw Tinkoff the first ones to start. Then Ethics Quickstep getting up there. Guys yelling at each other here as they're going out the back, fighting for survival. This is still the group of Matthews.
This is behind that group that we're just looking at, and at 74 kilometres to go, these riders are in serious risk of being eliminated today, of being outside the time cutoff, because there won't be a lot of latitude given. And now the pressure is really on. The race is starting to fall apart. This is Albert Timmer at the back for the Giant Alpecin team. He loses contact, and now it's in 1, 2, 3, 4 distinct groups. It's soon to be 5.
Ladies and gentlemen at home, that is what you call an echelon. That left to right staggered formation. They're all trying to find shelter and eventually run out of road. And like that Giant Alpecin rider, who was John Degenkolb, you get shot out the back and it just splits and splits and splits again. And look at the front of the race. Riders scrambling, trying to make a formation, trying to get organised to stay in touch. But another big group going off the back of that peloton now. And you look at the back of that really tightly bunched unit at the front. The last couple of riders right on the edge of the road.
It reminds me of the stage at Le Grand Mot when the HDC team in 2009 went to the front. Cavendish won the stage. Contador was caught behind the split. His teammate, Lance Armstrong, being his teammate, was in that front group, and the race really started to blow up. It's a very similar scenario to what we saw then in 2009, but this is a lot further from home. Some big damage can be done this afternoon on the road to Montpellier.
All these riders who have just been caught out and been shot off the back of the bunch will now get another opportunity to come back. You see them have just turned to the right. That's that point I said it was about a 4.5 kilometre section of crosswind, really bad, and then it turned, gave them a bit more crosswind. It might give them a little chance, but this road's constantly left and right.
And look at the ones at the tail whip just dangling. This is Ian Stannard, followed by Luke Rowe. It's then Chris Froome, Bernard Eisel, Mark Cavendish. Burkhardt comes through with the mustache. Van Avermaet from BMC.
Hardly surprising to see the ex-Sky riders from a couple of years ago, Eisel and Cavendish, on the back of the Sky train. You know they're going to do absolutely everything to get Chris Froome up there. It's the place to be. They're also missing Renshaw today, so they need everything they can get.
Going past this group just a little bit too quickly, but main contingent of Bora Argon 18.
It was virtually the same group we saw before. They just got back on. No sooner they got back on, they turned into a crosswind, straight back off the back again, as now Astana come to the front, and they're working for Fabio Aru. Vincenzo Nibali, he has not missed the split. He's also right up the front as they come into the town here of Saint-Genis-de-Fondetti. And a little bit of shelter.
Oh, it's got 3 frogs on its coat of arms here, and they're going to have to get a hop along to stay at the front.
One I saw trying to do that looked to me to be Thibaut Pinot, who was trying to chase across that little gap behind our main peloton. As they come back out of town, away from all those buildings, it's going to be all on again.
You look at the profile.